Welcome to the Fitness Contrarian. My name is Michael Cola and I've been a personal trainer for over 20 years. In this video I'd like to talk about how to get rid of the belly pooch. I actually got emailed a few weeks ago from a woman who's been eating right, she's been doing a lot of aerobics, but no matter what she does, she still can't seem to get rid of this belly pooch or this bulging of the stomach. She says she's exercising a lot but her stomach still bulges out. So in this video I'm going to explain to you how it may not have anything to do with what you're eating or how much aerobics you're doing. It actually could be a muscular imbalance where some muscles are tight and other muscles are weak, and that what is going on is that it's actually taking your pelvis and tilting it into a position that's making your stomach actually bulge out. And in this next clip I'll explain to you biomechanically what might be going on with your body. Okay, now what might be going on with your body that's making your stomach actually bulge out is most likely or possibly tight hip flexors. Now, hip flexors are muscles that actually flex the hip. There are three primary hip flexors. One is called the rectus femoris. This is one of your quadricep muscles. This muscle actually attaches to the top of your kneecap and it runs to this spot right here. This is called the anterior inferior iliac spine. Actually, when this muscle is tight, it can actually take your pelvis and make it actually tilt or rotate forward. And that's a possibility what could be leading to this belly pooch. Another couple of muscles are called the Illacus and the Psoas Major. Now, these are really powerful hip flexors. These muscles both attach to the lesser trochanter, this little bump on your thigh bone right here on your femur, and they actually run up and they hug into your ilium and they attach to your lumbar vertebrae, transverse processes, and they run into your thoracic area of your vertebrae as well. Now when these muscles are tight, they can also, in addition, tilt your pelvis forward when they're really tight. So what happens when your hip flexors are tight is that they're actually taking your pelvis and it's making it rotate forward. See, when these muscles are tight, when that rectus femoris, the Psoas Major, the Illacus, when they're tight, see how my pelvis is pushed forward, see how my stomach is sticking out? If we can relax, we elongate these muscles, or actually strengthen the opposing muscles, so these hip flexors relax and go back into balance, your stomach could actually just flatten out. It may not have anything to do with how you're eating or all the aerobics you're doing. If these hip flexors are actually tight, it's taking your pelvis and putting it into a position that's going to have your stomach bulging out all the time. So in this next clip, I'm going to show you a couple of stretches and some exercises that are actually going to strengthen the antagonistic muscle group, or your hip extensors, which will release your hip flexors. Plus, we'll show you some basic exercises to actually stretch out these hip flexor muscles. Okay, here's a basic hip flexor exercise that's going to actually stretch out all the three major hip flexors we talked about, the rectus femoris, the iliacus, the psoas major. Okay, what you want to do is get into this position, pretty much 90 degrees here, flex to the hip. You want to load and lean forward. Now you don't want to go maximally. If you watch some of my other videos, I'm not a total believer in forcing yourself into these positions, like forcing yourself into these static type stretches. So when I stretch myself, I like to actively stretch. So I'm kind of loading my body here. I'm elongating these hip flexors. I'm keeping my stomach tight, but I'm actually going to pick up the range in another motion. What I mean by that is that I'm loading 90 degrees, I'm interlocking my hands here, and see how now I'm extending my spine? So I'm contracting all my posterior muscles right now, and right now I'm elongating my hip flexors. I'm also going to lean to the left, I'm also going to lean to the right, and then I'm really going to hit these hip flexors by rotating in the opposite direction of the legs that's back. I'm really contracting and elongating these hip flexors. Another thing I might do is I might flex my leg. This is really going to elongate the hip flexors with a nice, great, active stretch. Okay, now keep in mind, whenever you're extending the hip, you're actually strengthening your extensors, all the extensor muscles in your body, like your big glute, your big buttock muscle, your big hamstring muscles. Whenever they're actually extending, what's actually being stretched, what's actually being released is actually your hip flexors. So by strengthening all the extensor muscles around your hip, it's actually going to release and elongate all those tight hip flexors, which might be causing a problem with this belly pooch. I'm going to show you just one really basic exercise, but just keep in mind, anything that extends the hip will release what flexes the hip. Let's get into that basic classic table position, which is hands over shoulders, knees over hips. We're going to keep the stomach tight and try to stabilize our pelvis. We're going to take the leg and we're going to extend. We're going to hold this for 10 seconds and then we're going to release. We're going to hold this for 10 seconds and we're going to release. So I'm strengthening my hip extensors and actually relaxing and elongating my hip flexors. Okay, let's just review what we've learned in this video. We've determined that you have a belly pooch, you've been eating right, you've been working out, but it just doesn't seem to be going away. So a possible cause of it might be tight hip flexors. When your hip flexors are tight, it's tilting your pelvis forward, making your abdomen stick out. So in this video, we've learned what the tight hip flexors are called: rectus femoris, iliacus, psoas major. We learned a great stretch to elongate these muscles, and we also learned a wonderful exercise to strengthen the extensors, which will actually release these hip flexors and hopefully get your pelvis in a more healthy, natural position. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please check out my website, fitnesscontrarian.com. Sign up to be put on my email list so I can keep you up to date with all the changes and the great information I'll be giving. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Take care and have a nice day.